KIWTB. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're doing fantastic this Friday evening. Today is July 5th, 2024. Hope you're drinking water and all that other good jazz. Staying healthy, taking care of yourselves. Hope you're staying informed. It's a crazy world out there, right? It's a crazy world. We got a little interesting live stream here for you. I think we're going to go watch this interview. Hopefully we can get through the 30 minutes of this and kind of come up with a conclusion of what's to come here. If you folks enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the like, share, and the subscribe button. It's your boy, KIWTB. Once again, we're going to go watch this video. Joe Biden's exclusive ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Good evening, everyone, on this momentous evening. I'm Juju Chang. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Tonight, ABC News has an exclusive interview with President Joe Biden. Our George Stephanopoulos sat down with the president for his first televised interview since that poor debate performance against Donald Trump. President Biden says he is committed to staying in the race and confident that he will prevail and beat Donald Trump. The president was directly called on to answer for his faltering appearances and whether he still has the mental and physical fitness for another term in the White House. Our team is standing by, of course, for analysis, but first, let's get to the interview.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans.
Big old smile.
Was this a bad episode
for someone
a sign
just
of a more serious condition?
It's a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted.
Interesting.
And I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
It's a great question.
I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them, they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, you don't think you did?
What I want to get at is, what were your experiences as you were going through?
That was like a week ago.
How badly it was going?
How would you not remember that?
Look,
how would you not remember if you've seen it or not? I don't know.
The way I prepared, nobody's fault mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. The way the debate ran, not my fault, no one else's fault. No one else's fault.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from the first question in, even before he spoke.
I just had a bad night. I got some bad interviews once in a while. I can't remember any, but I'm sure you did.
I've had plenty.
So have I.
I guess the question...
We're all human here. I get it.
For a lot of Americans watching is, you've said, going back to 2020, watch me. Yep. To people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
It's crazy.
Well, look,
it's
after that debate, I did 10 major events in a row, including until 2 o'clock in the morning after that debate. I did events in North Carolina. I did events in Georgia. Did events like this today. Large crowds, overwhelming response, no slipping. And so I just had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how quickly did it come to you?
Man, this is sad, dude.
Bad night.
Well, it came out of a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, even though they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me. I'm not blaming it on that. But I realized that I just wasn't in control.
Just relax.
Part of the other
Big Joe?
concern is that
Sister George over here.
He's
like, hey,
recently, New York Times.
He's like, hey, hold up, hold up, hold up, relax there, George. With these questions here, this dude's crazy, man. This dude's crazy.
Had a headline on July 2nd, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. Here's what they wrote. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome. By many accounts, as evidenced by video footage, observation, and interviews, Mr. Biden is not the same today as he was even when he took office 3.5 years ago. Similar reporting in the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
It's crazy to be asked a question.
Yes. I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East.
How can this dude really sit here and say that, though? That just blows my mind, bro. I am not the same person I was 4 or 5 years ago. This dude cannot be the same person 5 years ago, 4 years ago. This guy's 81 years old, man. Wow, it's insane, dude.
Coming to fruition. I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that...
How much is he going to change in 4 years for an old guy? I mean, but like, come on, man. It's just so difficult for me to...
Through the economy.
So difficult,
all
man.
The individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, you know, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? Today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on. I know you know this from the days in the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them. We took on all
how did
the
he
things we
beat
said we got done.
Big Pharma?
Until we couldn't get done. And part of it is
he mean like
when I ran,
Medicare?
I wanted to do 3 things. Restore some decency to the office.
Some
Restore
decency.
some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics, go from the middle out and the bottom up. The way the wealthy still do fine, everyone does better. And unite the country.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you
anything
physically, mentally, emotionally?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night, a bad run. But, you know, George...
Doesn't it take a toll on you, man? Can you,
I'm optimistic about this country. I don't think we're a country of losers, that he points out. I don't think America's in tough shape. I think America's on a cusp.
Bro, this is your performance.
So many incredible opportunities. This next term, I'm going to make sure we have straighten out the tax system.
This
I'm
guy
going
is
to make sure we're in a situation where we have health care for all people, where we're in a position where we have child care and elder care.
Bro,
and all these things.
Stop with all this.
And you remember when my economic plan was put forward, a lot of the mainstream economists said it's not going to work. Guess what? You now have 16 Nobel laureates, 16 of them in economics, saying that Biden's next term would be, based on what he wants to do, enormous success. Trump's plan would cause a recession, would significantly increase inflation. I've made great progress, and that's what I plan on doing, and we can do this.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm asking you is about your personal situation.
Right.
Do you dispute?
Right. I don't care about whatever the BS this dude just spit out. I care about do you understand that your performance is different than what it was a few years ago? Come on, dude. You have to realize there's a difference. Does all the stuff that you've done, the traveling, does that put a toll on you? You're a single person. Just admit that you're just a man, and this is a lot. This is a lot. He's like, nah, well, I'm doing this for the country. It's like, no. What you have already done, is that taking a toll on you right now, man? It costs, all of that costed him. You did all that work, and it cost you that one night. What? That makes no sense.
That there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months.
I don't understand it. We'll put it that way.
110 flat? No. But I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
This dude's great. How can you lie to this guy in his face, man, and say that? Like, this is unreal.
Keep my schedule.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate. What did he say?
He said, he just looked at me. He said, you're exhausted.
I feel like you always look exhausted,
I
man.
have medical doctors travel me everywhere. Every president does, as you know. Medical doctors, some of the best in the world, travel me everywhere I go. I have an ongoing assessment of what I'm doing. They don't hesitate to tell me if they think there's something wrong.
I know you said you have an ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I would love to hear this.
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. Yes, the answer is
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests?
Right.
And have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
Wow.
no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
No one said you had
Would
to.
you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day.
He says, bro, I wake up every day. That's my cognitive test, right? I run this country and this world into the ground. That's my cognitive test that I deal with. You folks in your cognitive tests trying to figure out if your neurological brain cells are firing off properly so you could make... Oh my God, this guy's something else, man. I tell you.
Every day I have that test.
He just laughs. It's
Everything I do. Not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right.
This guy,
every
man.
single day. For example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard to, in Europe, with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick.
What's going on in France, like where they're like protesting or like right? What is this dude? And I get that. I seen there was some kind of news of this new UK Prime Minister, which I'm hearing that's a whole unfortunate situation for those, excuse me, folks out there on the other side of the pond. But just because you're talking to these people mean nothing. I just. It means that someone can make a call for you and you get on there and you just say you're rambling BS. But like, oh, man, are you folks really conducting like coherent business, like legal coherent business here? Like,
Taking on Putin.
He's taking on Putin.
Every
Okay.
day, there's no day I go through, they're not those decisions I have to make every single day.
And you have been doing that, and the American people have been watching, yet their
Right.
concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm
Absolutely.
asking you to reassure them, would you be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me there's a lot of time left in this campaign. It's over 125 days.
That's not
So
a lot of
the
time, bro.
The right answer right now is no, you don't want to do that right
No,
now.
I've already done it.
No, you haven't.
You talked a lot about your successes at the
No, dude. God.
beginning of this interview, and I don't want to dispute that. I don't want to debate that. But as you know, elections are about the future, not the past. They're about tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together.
Is it yes or no, dude? I don't care what you did. I'll admit it. Him and Donald Trump, man, they always just say what. I don't care what. Answer the question.
No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shoved Putin.
This guy just said he created NATO. Or you put NATO together. What? NATO was together before. What? This guy. Let me go back to make sure he said what he.
Effectively for the next 4 years.
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together. The future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shoved Putin down. No one thought could happen.
Why is this guy whispering when George is not even a couple feet away from him?
I'm the guy that put together the South Pacific Initiative with AUKUS. I'm the guy that got 50 nations, out, not only in Europe, outside of Europe as well, to help Ukraine. I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. So I mean, these, and for example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip, and we invented the chip, that little chip for the computer chip. It's in everything from cell phone to weapons. And so we used to have 40%, we're down to virtually nothing. So I get in the plane against the advice of everybody, and I fly to South Korea. I convinced them to invest in the United States, billions of dollars. Now we have tens of billions of dollars being invested in the United States, making us back in a position where we're going to own that industry again.
My question is, if that's the case, is that really going to go into the American people's like pockets here, or is that going into their pockets? Is any of this money going to the roads or security or the education system or like I don't know, the police or medical or like what?
I mean, I just...
That's real cool, bro. And shout out to the folks in South Korea. But like, oh, dude.
Anyway.
I
Wow.
don't
want to take too much credit. I have a great staff.
But I guess my point is, all that takes a toll. Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
I believe so. I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did.
Okay. What an answer.
Look.
What an answer, man.
I'm running again because I think I understand best what has to be done to take this nation to a completely new level. We're on our way.
New level.
We're on our way.
We're on our way, all right.
The decision recently made by Supreme Court on immunity.
This is scary, dude.
The next president of the United States, it's not just about whether he or she knows what they're doing. It's not about a conglomerate of people making decisions. It's about the character of the president. The character of the president is going to determine whether or not this Constitution is employed the right way.
What about the people, Joe? It's not about... He says it's about the character. It's not about if you're coherent or not. It's about your character. So... I don't even like... Your character is more important than your intelligence. I could see that being of like, hey, is this all about the person's character, which I'm all about. It's all about the the morals or what a person stands for, you know, which is important. What does that person stand for? What is their motivation? What drives them? Which is very important to understand about someone. But you want people to be coherent too, right? You want folks to be able to like make smart decisions, but also have a big heart, right? You want them to be have good characteristics. A president, in this instance, you wouldn't want a president to have good characteristics, but you would want a president to have good characteristics and to be coherent. Coherent.
And we should note that ABC News offered Donald Trump the same opportunity for a one-on-one interview, and he declined. We'll have more of George Stephanopoulos' exclusive interview with President Biden.
Why would he? He doesn't have to do anything. he doesn't have to pull up for none of this. This dude does. You know why this dude does?
We are here in Israel, and
this dude has to pull up because he messed up at the interview last week, or the debate. If he just was on point, he wouldn't even have to have done this. If he was doing the right thing for this country, it wouldn't be getting all this flack. It's like, bro, no one would be questioning your cognitive ability if you were actually just coherent, bro. If things were just running smoothly. Oh my God, man. This guy is like insane. Shout out to George, man, for asking these very important questions. It's like, wow, I'm like almost surprised that they're even hitting this guy with these questions. I'm so surprised. But like, we've gotten to a point where it's just, dude, we need answers. Someone's got to ask these questions, man. Someone's got to ask these questions.
Welcome back. Let's return now to ABC's George Stephanopoulos' exclusive interview with President Joe Biden.
Let me ask you a tougher, more personal question. Are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity to serve another 4 years?
Yes, I am, because, George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think as a senior economist and senior foreign policy specialist say, if I stop now, I'd go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
But are you being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes. Yes.
This guy.
You say that, and let me challenge you.
Sure.
Because you were close, but behind going into the debate. You're further behind now by any measure. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon. Yet you're still falling further behind.
You guys keep saying
How's that
George,
possible?
Look, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I
my
don't
God.
think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate and the House are doing better than you are.
Well, that's not a
Wow. Someone do the math on that one. Make that make sense. Wow.
some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 20.
They like the freaking Democratic governors than this guy.
I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before
right.
the vote, I said that's not going to happen. We're going to win.
Right.
He did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done.
He's not lying about this
In
part.
2023, all the tough races we're not going to win. I went into all those areas, all those districts.
I don't know about this part though.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close
Right.
race.
Okay.
And your approval rating has dropped
George just fact checked this guy. Okay.
significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was at about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020.
Wow.
Wouldn't a clear-eyed political calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024?
Not when you're running against a pathological liar. Not when he hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged. Not when people.
You've had months to
lie.
challenge him.
Oh, sure I had mental, but I was also doing a hell of a lot of other things, like wars around the world.
He said, homie, George, I've been out here throwing gasoline on all these geopolitical wars here. I haven't had time to challenge this guy, Donald Trump here. That's what I get from that. This dude's something else.
Like working, anyway.
I'm too busy throwing gasoline on these fires to be dealing with this guy, this convicted felon. Ugh. My time's better used in... my God,
really
man. What a time to be alive right now, dog. This is crazy.
All the pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up.
There's only one poll I'm really far behind. CBS poll.
Breaking. It's a new school. It's a toss-up. I don't follow too many polls or any of that. We could go check some out. But I mean, I've been hearing it's heavily on Donald Trump's side now, like especially after that interview. If you have, that's what it looked like. But you know, we'll see, right? Let's put it that way.
And and
CNN.
New York Times and NBC both have you about 6 points behind in the popular vote.
That's exactly right. New York Times had me behind before anything happened to do with this race. Had me behind 10 points. 10 points.
It's like they were like projecting.
Substances in the New York Times poll.
Just when you
Foreseeing, foreshadowing something.
You won the popular vote.
I don't know.
In 2020.
What do I know, right?
Deadly close in the electoral
By 7
college.
million votes.
Yes, but you're behind now in the popular vote.
I don't buy that.
Is it worth the risk?
He said he
I don't
doesn't
think
buy.
anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
Wow.
You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump is that he's only out for himself.
Joe, give him the line. Give him the line, Joe, and then give him the smile. Ding, and then they'll have like the little flash or whatever. This dude's comical, homie. Comical. Let's go.
His personal interest ahead of the national interest. How do you respond to critics?
Look at
who
this
say that
guy,
by staying in
man.
the race, you're doing the same thing.
Homie, he's got one eye. Oh, man. This is so sad to watch, man. This is crazy.
Oh, come on.
Come
I
on.
don't think those critics know what they're talking about.
Joe.
They're just wrong.
It's wrong. Look, Trump is a pathological liar. Trump is, he is. Have you ever seen anything Trump did that benefited somebody else, not him? You can't answer, I know.
I've questioned him and his allies as persistently as any journalist has.
No, I know you have. I'm not being critical.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical. But look, I mean, the man is a
Processing.
congenital liar.
Okay.
As I said, they pointed out in that debate he lied 28 times the times, or whatever number, over 20 times. Talk
Joe,
about how
you
good
couldn't
his
even
economy was,
speak.
how he brought down inflation, how
Homie.
this is the guy who, unlike only other president other than him, is Hoover, lost more jobs than he created. This
Herbert
guy told
Hoover.
us he put bleach in our arms to deal with COVID, with over 1 million
Herbert
people
Edgar
died.
Hoover.
This is the guy who talks about wanting to get rid of the health care provisions we put in place. This is the guy who wants to give the power back to big pharma to be able to charge exorbitant prices for drugs. This is the guy who wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand.
Dog,
I understand that.
and this is the guy that's did a complete reverse of what Donald Trump did. So like, wow, it's crazy to hear him say that this guy is running to reverse what. Wow, the mental gymnastics to put this.
That's why you want to stay in the race. But if you convince yourself that only you can defeat him,
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him.
Okay.
I know how to get things done.
Okay.
if you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well, I mean, on a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
I didn't hear about that, but
Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination, too. Mark's not.
I didn't hear about this Mark particular person, but I heard that there was folks on his side trying to figure all this out. Like, this is insane. This is like a coup building in their own party.
I have a different perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'd get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George, if all...
But it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that...
Wow. Let's freaking go with this, George. Let's go.
The rest of the meeting. But it's been reported...
I've met with them. I've met with a lot of these people. I've talked with them regularly.
Okay.
I had an hour conversation with Hakeem. I had more time than that with Jim Clyburn. I spent time with many hours off and on the last little bit with Chuck Schumer. It's not like I had all the governors. All the governors.
I agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if you are told reliably from your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Of course you're not. Right on, Joe. Right on.
It's not going to happen.
Nice.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
You saw it today. How many people do you draw crowds like I drew today? You find me any more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw
Right.
a big crowd, but what does he say? Who does he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this. We have over 1 million individual contributors.
But I heard Donald Trump raised way more.
Less than $200.
And then I'm also hearing that the Harris of Disney is threatening to withhold money if he doesn't step down. Man, I mean, this guy's something else. I tell you.
I've not seen what you're proposing.
What are you
haven't
proposing?
seen
Homie, what are you proposing to turn this around? That's what the guy just asked you. And then he just threw it back. What are you proposing? What are you proposing? Like what? What?
the fall off in the polls. You haven't seen the reports of discontent in the Democratic Party, House Democrats, Senate Democrats.
This guy's living in a bubble or something.
So much to analyze. And so for more insight on
Is
this
that it?
interview, we're joined now by contributing political correspondent Rachel Bade, who's also author of the Politico Playbook. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
I would be here.
I know that every source you have in Washington is going through the tea leaves and looking at it. Is there anything you or they saw tonight that is moving the needle on this? And is even a perfect performance going to move the needle?
Yeah, I was hearing even before this interview aired that a perfect performance would sort of just prolong the inevitable right now. That,
That's
Biden
crazy.
from the debate is so damaged that people will not forget what happened last Thursday. And even if he, has the best interview possible here. And because
Seems
of
like it, right?
that sort of line of thinking, I would say that what we saw tonight is
This is people from ABC, by the way. This isn't Fox News. This isn't no right-wing leaning conservative media outlet. This is ABC News.
actually one of the worst possible scenarios for Democrats. He didn't do so bad that it's obvious and a whole bunch of Democrats are going to come out, go on record and say it's time for you to step aside. But he didn't do so amazingly that people are going to forget this. And so they're in this sort of limbo scenario. So, I mean, look, it wasn't as bad as last Thursday, but certainly not great. And that means more Democrats will still have concern.
And you know that on Capitol Hill, we're hearing about what Senator Warner is doing. We're hearing that Hakeem Jeffries is meeting with people. What do you think will come out of these
These
meetings?
folks are plotting right now.
Yeah, so I think next week is going to be a crazy week.
I bet. These folks are plotting.
Juju. I mean, the lawmakers have been out for, what, a week now for congressional recess. This means they could avoid the press, they can avoid the cameras and not have to weigh in. But at some point, they're not going to be able to hide anymore. And a lot of people have been talking on background, they've been talking off the record, and they've been very blunt, thinking that, you know, the Biden campaign, the presidency, his presidential campaign is essentially dead. And so we're going to see, I think, a lot more lawmakers come out. I think, you know, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they're hearing from a lot of concerned members. And these aren't just random members here. I mean, Mark Warner, the chair of the Intelligence Committee, he helps Joe Biden get his agenda through Congress. He has a lot of respect.
And this is friendly fire. This
Yes.
is a lot going on. Rachel Bade, thank you so much for your insights, as always.
Of course.
Now let's bring in our ABC senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang. Selena, some people were calling this interview a televised cognitive test. How did the president score?
I'm curious.
Well, look, this certainly did not quell the panic within the Democratic Party. In fact, it may have increased the schisms here. Now you have the camp of those who think that the president was just fine, that this is how President Biden normally is. And then the other camp who believe that this really underscores the challenges of his candidacy, that he didn't do enough to turn this around. I've been speaking with some donors and allies here who say that this didn't really change the status quo. Yes, it was far better than he did on that disastrous debate, but he didn't do enough to stem the damage here. And you, of course, have lawmakers, donors, and allies who are really waiting out on the sidelines, watching to see how he does in these rallies, in this critical interview, to decide if they want to continue supporting the president or if they want to join the growing chorus of those who are publicly calling him to step aside.
Nice.
And how united is the support inside the White House? What are you hearing from your sources about how the president's interview went tonight?
Yeah, I was just talking to the White House, and they're calling this a solid interview. They believe that we need to focus less on the president's delivery and what he says and what he's done. The president, of course, has said so himself, that 90 minutes shouldn't erase all the work that he's done in the last 3.5 years. They tout that he spoke about all the jobs that he's created, the work he's done around chips, on uniting NATO, on pushing back Putin and Ukraine. So in their view, this is just Joe Biden being Joe Biden. He was solid. He was never a spectacular speaker to begin with, and you certainly didn't get that today either.
And one of Biden's biggest surrogates, California Governor Gavin Newsom, is out campaigning for the president today, calling this an important weekend, saying none of us are naive. What are Biden and his advisors looking for to determine whether the campaign...
You see this guy's eyes, man? This dude looks crazy. This dude looks like he is like... I don't even know.
can recover from all this?
These folks are characters, man.
Yeah, Juju. I mean,
Like
look,
from
polling
movies,
is one
from
thing, and the
evil
numbers have been getting worse. You have both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times polling showing that Trump is widening his lead over Biden's. Now at least 6%, 6-point lead. This is the spread, and it is growing. But of course, for the inner circle of the advisors to the president, they are still strongly standing behind him. They still believe that he is the best chance for the party to defeat Donald Trump. In other parts of the White House administration and other donors and ally circles, however, they believe that this inner circle is too tightly around this president and that they aren't hearing all of the criticism from the outside and that they're being too dismissive of it. But really, Juju, like you said, this is really a make or break it moment for the president, and he needs to continue to perform in these coming days. As I've been hearing from allies, it's not just one okay interview, one good rally. It's a successive string of days where the president needs to show that he has the stamina and mental acuity.
Selena Wang on another busy summer weekend. Thanks for your reporting and insights.
There's a lot riding on.
And thank you for joining us for this ABC
the
News
next couple months
interview with President Biden. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis of the president's interview with our own George Stephanopoulos.
Shout out to ABC. I mean, yo, he's got a lot. This guy, man, I tell you what, he's got a lot riding. He's got a lot to lose right now, man. He's got a lot to lose. I feel I'll try to keep it short on this one. This guy has a lot to prove here. If this guy thinks he is going to be able to compete with Donald Trump, man, he's got a lot to show. He's got a lot to continue. He has to continue with, just like this lady said right then, he has to continue with these okay interviews for him to even, like, he's got to gain the public's trust, which I feel like is kind of like difficult at this moment after the debate and everything. He's got a lot to prove. He's got a lot to prove, and he's got to keep a lot of people from falling overboard here, because it looks like some folks are jumping overboard. They're seeing something here. I don't know what it is, but they're seeing something, and it doesn't look good. My personal opinion. I mean, beyond that, I just these folks are just interesting people, man, and it makes me think. I get that this guy's old, but there's like all these old people from like years and years from all over the world. All these different world leaders and stuff like that. People with these tribesmen and stuff like that. All these different cultures. We have folks that lead that are elders. Really old, they're wise, and they run things. And this guy, he's like the oldest. He's like the oldest, and he's running things. We got to get some younger folks in here. But just knowing that we are, as people, elect folks who are more, that are elder, that are older than us, that are wiser than us, we are just continuously going to be going down this path to, like, when do we stop having these folks, or have a limit on these folks' age? But it's just wild to think that this guy really thinks that he has the mental stamina and fortitude. He has the physical stamina and mental fortitude to continue running this place for another few years. He has the power, or he has the backing